Unexpected connection: how a poor mechanic's blind date with a paralyzed CEO's daughter changed everything. Jake had always been a man of the shop where grease and grit met sweat and toil. As a mechanic in a small Midwestern town, his life revolved around his family's auto repair business, a testament to hard work and perseverance, especially after losing his father. The weight of that loss hung heavy on him, fueling his determination to keep the shop thriving amidst relentless financial pressures. Each day at the shop was a reminder of the values his father instilled in him. But outside the world of wrenches and engines, loneliness loomed larger than any project on his bench. "Maybe a little love'll bring you back to life," his mother often said, nudging him toward a social life he hadn't thought much about. So when she decided to set him up on a blind date, Jake, with a mix of reluctance and expectation, agreed. After all, a caring mother had her heart in the right place. The diner was a vibrant piece of Americana, draped in nostalgia. The sweet aroma of fries and grilled burgers blended perfectly with the laughter of locals sharing tales over coffee. Jake sat at a booth, fiddling with his hands, glancing nervously at the door. Then, as if the universe had tilted just slightly, Emily entered. She rolled in gracefully, a striking figure in her wheelchair, a soft light playing off her hair. Jake's breath caught in his throat, and he felt an unfamiliar rush. She was the daughter of a wealthy CEO, yet there was an undeniable vulnerability hidden behind her striking facade. The accident had left her paralyzed, but it hadn't dimmed the spark in her eyes. They exchanged tentative smiles, and awkward laughter filled the space between them as they settled into their seats. "Been looking forward to this," Jake started, his voice a bit too loud in the cozy atmosphere. Emily smiled, but as they talked, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that he was just an underdog in a world too big for him. He shared stories about the shop, while Emily hesitantly unveiled hints about her father's expectations, her life leaning heavily against a celebratory title she could not escape. As the chemistry simmered, they connected despite their stark differences. Jake's hands bore the marks of labor, while Emily wrestled with the shadows of her past. Yet, the evening unfolded like a fragile thread being woven, each moment igniting a flicker of hope. Just when it seemed they might bridge the gap, the town was shaken by tragedy: a factory explosion, sending shockwaves through their community and breaking the fragile connection they formed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with Hearts Ignited by Purpose. Jake rallied friends and neighbors to help the families devastated by the explosion. Emily, relentlessly true to her compassionate spirit, reached out to her father's company for support. But as they began to unite their efforts, the harsh realities of their backgrounds threatened to pull them apart. Jake felt the weight of his humble beginnings, while Emily struggled against familial pressures tighter than any knot. As the charity event approached, anticipation wrapped around them like a second skin. Jake was torn between proving his worth in a world of wealth, and embracing the vulnerability that love demanded. Emily stared into the night, her heart heavy with unspoken longing. Could they break through the barriers built by their families, or would they remain just two star-crossed souls caught in a tangled mess of privilege and struggle? The answer lingered like hope before dawn, elusive but shimmering, as they both stood on the precipice of uncertainty together. Everything. The day of the charity event arrived, cloaked in gray skies and the subtle scent of rain. The town hall had been transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Banners flapped in the wind, and volunteers hustled around, setting up tables, decorations, and donation boxes. Jake arrived early, a determined frown etched on his face. He wanted everything to be perfect, not just for the cause, but for Emily. He could still remember that electric connection they had shared, each fleeting moment now like a precious stone tucked in his pocket. As he moved through the hall, he spotted familiar faces, his neighbors, childhood friends, and even some folks who rarely showed up for community events. This felt bigger than just a charity, it was a chance for unity, for the town to come together as one. But the moment he saw Emily roll in, his heart sank a little. Dressed in a deep blue gown that hugged her frame just right, she looked like she belonged to another world, one where elegance and ease dripped from every gesture. "Hey, you made it!" he called out, forcing a bright smile. Her own smile was a mix of warmth and slight disbelief. "I wouldn't miss it. Everyone is counting on us." Jake felt the unease bubble in his chest once again as he watched her interact with her father's business colleagues, their laughter light and carefree, contrasting starkly with the worry etched on his brow. "Just remember," he muttered to himself, as he attempted to shake off the nagging pressure, "you are here for a reason." The hostess' voice crackled through the microphone, calling everyone to their seats. Jake and Emily were side by side, working together to spread words about the fundraiser, sharing the stories of the families affected by the explosion. As Jake spoke, he could feel the tension between trying to express his raw passion and the polished language of the boardroom. He noticed Emily's eyes shimmer with encouragement, giving him strength. But just as they started to draw in the crowd, he felt the weight of judgment from the well-dressed attendees weighing him down. Whispers flitted around him, and he heard phrases like, "How quaint," and "How brave of her." It deepened the crack in his confidence, and he momentarily faltered under the spotlight, daring to glance at Emily. She caught his eye and smiled, yet he could see a flicker of concern within her gaze. After the speeches, they moved to a quieter corner, away from prying eyes. Emily leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper amidst the noise. "Jake, you were captivating up there. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself." He took a breath. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough, for you, for this event, for anything." He could feel the vulnerability seeping through his words like a slow leak. Her expression softened, and she placed her hand gently on his. "You are more than enough. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." The moment hung there, fragile as glass. Just as he was about to lean in, a loud crash echoed through the hall. A table laden with donation items toppled over, sending glasses and trinkets scattering across the floor. Their moment shattered. The crowd stirred, distraction cutting through the ambience. Emily sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Jake gritted his teeth, not just at the interruption, but at the way the universe seemed to conspire against them. "Damn it," he whispered, frustration bubbling. Determination ignited in Emily's eyes. "We can fix this. Together." As people rushed to help, Jake looked at her anew. This was not just about the charity, it was about them, navigating through chaos and connection. They moved toward the commotion, hearts beating in sync, united in purpose. Little did they know, an unforeseen danger lurked nearby, threatening to unravel everything they had woven together. Jake and Emily dove into the chaos. Together, they began gathering the scattered items, talking to neighbors, sharing jokes to lighten the atmosphere. When someone cracked a funny story about the perilous creation of a giant piñata, laughter erupted, cutting through the tension. In that moment of unplanned camaraderie, something clicked between them, melting away the earlier unease. As they worked side by side, the flicker of closeness rekindled in Jake's heart. He felt like he could push through the noise of pretense that hung over the room. "You know, I never pictured myself at an event like this," he said, chuckling at some old memories of simpler days at the grease-stained shop. Emily wiped a smudge from her cheek, laughing softly. "And yet here you are, showing us how it's done." Just as he was about to respond, a sudden gust of wind burst through the half-open doors at the back of the hall, slamming them wide open. The sudden chill swept over everyone, causing gasps and murmurs. It was almost as if the universe was conspiring once again, tossing their moment into another bout of uncertainty. Jake felt the hairs on his arms stand on end. "Do you think this is a bad omen?" His voice was half joking, but he couldn't mask the underlying tension. "Maybe, or maybe it's just a reminder that we can handle whatever comes. Together, Emily replied, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of mischief and determination. The room was buzzing now, volunteers fanning out to secure loose papers and decorations that threatened to take flight. An older lady was clutching a donation jar, her knuckles white with anxiety. Jake rushed over to her. "I've got you. We'll fix this." Together, they secured her belongings and soon, people were banding together, sharing their strengths. And then, as laughter and teamwork swirled in the air, Jake sensed a shift. He turned to see Emily talking to an elderly man in a tweed jacket, her laughter ringing out delicately like a chime. The sight made him pause. This was what Emily was destined for, this effortless connection with the community that he wished he could be a part of, that he longed to understand. He didn't realize it then, but in the midst of all this chaos, he started to question what it meant for him, the mechanic with a heart full of dreams, standing in the shadow of someone like Emily. Could he truly fit into her world? Just then, the hostess' voice broke through the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your hard work. Can we reconvene to share the progress and see the strong connections being formed today?" The room quieted suddenly, and all eyes turned to the front. Jake felt the nerves come flooding back. He never liked the idea of being front and center. He glanced at Emily, who nodded, encouraging him. "Okay," he thought, steeling himself. As he moved toward the mic, he sought out her gaze. But before he could find it, a loud crash echoed from the back of the hall. All heads turned sharply. Emily's expression shifted, fear flickering across her features as she pointed with wide eyes. Panic. "Where's the source?" Jake's heart raced. "What is happening?" Without thinking, he dashed towards the noise, adrenaline pushing him forward. Behind him, he heard Emily's determined footsteps following closely. "Jake! Wait! What had they just walked into?" The tension mounted as he threaded his way through the crowd, heart thumping. What danger loomed unseen, and could they tackle it together before it tore them apart? Jake dashed past clusters of startled volunteers, his eyes darting to locate the source of the crash. The air was buzzing with uncertainty, a collective gasp rippling through the crowd. People muttered anxiously, their voices weaving into a tapestry of concern. Emily could be heard behind him, her footsteps quickening as she tried to keep pace. "Jake! Be careful!" she urged, panic lacing her words. He turned briefly to glance back at her, forcing a smile that was more confident than he felt. "I'm just checking things out." He yelled over the noise, though he wasn't even sure what he was checking for. As he lunged around a corner, he entered a smaller room adjoining the main hall. There, amidst the remnants of decorations, he spotted the culprit, a toppled table, shattered glass glittering like dangerous confetti under the flickering lights. A few volunteers were clustered around it, trying to pick up the pieces all while avoiding sharp edges. "Stand back!" Jake shouted, moving into the thick of the chaos. He knelt down to help the others clear away the debris. "We don't want anyone getting hurt." As hands met broken glass, adrenaline surged through him. His focus narrowed down to the job at hand, his mind racing with thoughts of Emily and the weight of the earlier laughter that had electrified the air just moments before. Then he sensed her presence behind him. Emily knelt down too, the worry etched visibly onto her face. "Jake, are you all right?" "I think so," he said, releasing a breath. "But we need to get this cleaned up fast." They worked side by side, practically mirroring each other's movements. Emily picked up the largest piece of a shattered frame, her expression grim but fierce. The sound of glass crunching underfoot sent a shiver up Jake's spine. In that moment, fear and resolve mingled, urging him to confront not just the mess they were tackling, but the chaos in his heart. "Why do we always find ourselves in situations like this?" Emily quipped, attempting to inject humor back into the moment as she brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Maybe chaos is drawn to us," he remarked, looking over at her. She never stopped smiling, even as the tension cloaked them. Another loud crash sounded from the main hall, making them both freeze. The world around them rallied into another flurry of activity. "Stay here," Jake urged as he shot back toward the entrance, instinct taking over. He didn't want anything to happen to her, especially not when he was starting to draw courage from her presence. As Jake stepped back into the main area, the sight before him took his breath away. A large display had collapsed, and a sea of concerned faces were frantically trying to restore order. But beneath the cacophony, Jake felt that same flicker of unity igniting. He noticed Emily rush up behind him, a determined light igniting her wide blue eyes. "What can we do?" she asked, her voice clear and steady. Jake's heart raced not with fear, but admiration. There she was, in the thick of it, ready to dive in. "Let us split up. You gather volunteers to help over there," he pointed toward the furthest corner, "and I'll start coordinating the cleanup." But as they turned to execute their plan, a figure emerged from the gathering crowd, attention pulling tight like a bowstring. The host, usually unflappable, looked frazzled and deeply concerned. "We need someone to manage the chaos," he announced, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Before he could think of a suitable response, the host looked straight at him. "Jake, could you come here a moment?" Every eye turned his way, and that familiar knot of anxiety twisted tighter in his stomach. What was he about to step into? Would Emily remain by his side, or would this be the moment where everything shifted once more? His breath hitched. The gamble felt bigger now than anything he'd faced before. He felt a weight settle on his shoulders as he approached the host. Jake tried to swallow the lump in his throat but failed. There was an urgent look in the hostess' eyes, as if he carried a burden heavier than the fallen decoration. "Jake, I really need someone to take charge here," the host said, his voice strained. "The whole event is on the verge of collapse. You know the layout and the people well enough to rally them. Can I count on you?" Jake was taken aback. "Me? In charge?" He glanced back at Emily, who stood there watching him, worry etched in her brow. Her gaze urged him to step up, yet uncertainty gnawed at him. "Okay," Jake replied, trying to mask the tremor in his tone. "I can try." "Great. Gather your team and start organizing," the host urged before dashing off to manage the crowd. With the spotlight suddenly on him, Jake took a deep breath. He needed to pull himself together. This was no time for doubt. He quickly scanned the room, spotting familiar faces in the crowd. "All right, everyone," he called out, raising his voice to cut through the noise. "We need to help clear this place up. Let us form teams." Emily nodded, catching his eye. There it was again, the flicker of support, of belief that he could handle this. With renewed courage, he turned back to the clamor. Volunteers began to shape up, others rallied beside him, listening attentively as he mapped out the tasks. "You guys at the entrance, redirect people away from the debris. Over there, help secure the stand so it won't fall again. Let us keep the main area clear for new guests arriving." The chaos started to fall into a rhythm, the air buzzing with purpose. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him as he organized the team, directing volunteers with more confidence than he knew he had. Behind him, he could hear Emily coordinating too, directing people to collect supplies and check on others. It thrilled him to see her so involved. They worked together, weaving in and out, their paths crossing multiple times as they both moved in sync. As the minutes turned into a blur, Jake could see the difference they were making. Laughter began to bubble up again, mingling with the sounds of diligent workers. Hope sparked in the air. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a girl with a nervous expression, standing off to the side. She was clutching a box, uncertainty flooding her features. Jake's heart went out to her. "Hey! You there!" he called, waving her over. "What do you have in that box?" I brought supplies," she stammered, eyes darting nervously. "I thought I could help." Jake approached with a smile, warmth enveloping them. "Absolutely. Let us get those supplies to where they're needed. You can help me hand them out. With that small exchange, something shifted. The girl's tension eased, a tentative smile appearing as she followed his lead. Jake realized then that this was more than just cleaning up. It was about connecting, about bringing people together. As he handed supplies out, he caught a glimpse of Emily again, her laughter ringing out like a joyous anthem amidst the steadfast hustle. The sight tugged at his heartstrings, awakening something deeper within him. They were all part of something bigger than themselves right now. Just as they began to find their pace, another resounding crash echoed from the other side of the room, scattering their focus once more. Jake felt his stomach drop. What now? He muttered under his breath. The crowd murmured anxiously, eyes widening as everyone turned toward the sound. An uneasy silence filled the space, and Jake's heart raced. What more could possibly go wrong? Before he could react, a familiar voice rang out from the mess. Is everyone all right? It was the host, rushing back with an urgent expression. Jake clenched his fists. He had to keep everyone calm, but at that moment, all he felt was a churning sense of dread mixed with determination. Would they be able to pull through again, or was this the chaos that would finally unravel them? Jake's heart raced as the host barreled through the crowd, a storm of anxiety swirling around them. The noise of scattered talking drowned out the urgency in his voice as he reached the point of disaster. That ear-splitting crash had been a heavy display falling, shattering the mood they had just begun to rebuild. Is anyone hurt? The host called, scanning the crowd for signs of distress. For a heartbeat, Jake just stood there, paralyzed by the uncertainty of it all. Check on the people near it. He shouted, jumping into action as the host snapped to and started directing others away from the debris. Jake took a deep breath and tried to project calm. Everyone, stay where you are. Let us clear a path. He focused on the frightened expressions of those nearby, lending them reassurance as he moved with purpose through the growing crowd. He could see Emily whispering to a few volunteers, rallying them to assist those who might be anxious in the wake of the noise. It was that mixture of chaos and community that felt so alive. As he navigated the current of people rushing to and fro, Jake spotted the girl he'd encouraged earlier. She had put the supplies back down and seemed rooted to the spot, fear taking over once more. Jake made a beeline for her, ignorance of the turmoil around him fostering the need to ensure she was okay. Hey! He called, his voice gentle but firm. Do you remember those supplies? We need them now more than ever. Can you help me pass them out? Her eyes widened, uncertainty flickering, but she nodded hesitantly. It was a small victory, one that ignited a fresh flame of purpose within Jake. If he could rally just one person, maybe he could inspire more as well. Let us get everyone organized. He shouted, turning toward the crowd again. If you can hear me, help us sort through supplies. We're going to make this work. People began to respond, flowing towards him like bees to a flower. Emily joined the fray, eyes sparkling with determination. Jake! We need more people to check for injuries. Can you coordinate that while we set things up? Absolutely. He affirmed, admiration swelling in his chest. He caught her gaze and gave her a nod, a silent pledge that he wouldn't let fear win. As the noise began to quiet down, Jake noticed how the room slowly transformed. The girl with the supplies had set to work, handing out essentials, her confidence blooming. There was laughter now, a glimmer of joy like fireflies in the night just bursting forth. Then the host rejoined them, sweat on his brow and urgency still etched across his features. We have to be ready for the next wave of attendees. They're going to come soon. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle back on his shoulders. The rush of adrenaline that had bolstered him began to fade, leaving behind uncertainty. He wanted to support everyone, but the enormity of it made him question whether he could hold it all together. In that moment, he felt a gentle touch on his shoulder. It was the girl with the supplies, her face lit with the joy of newfound purpose. We're doing great, right? She asked, her voice sliced with a hint of nervousness but brimming with newfound confidence. Jake gazed into her hopeful eyes. "Yeah, we are. We just need to keep going. Together." As the crowd worked side by side, he could see how powerful their connections had become, creating bonds amid chaos. But he lingered on the thought of what could happen next: a sudden rush of guests, an unforeseen accident, or a broken connection that could unravel everything. The light of determination flickered in his chest, edging him forward even as fear lurked in the background. They weren't done yet. There was still so much at stake. Out of nowhere, another loud crash echoed through the space, rattling the foundation of their newfound spirit. Jake felt his stomach tighten again. "Now what?" he whispered, as the crowd instinctively froze, eyes wide, all searching for answers. Were they prepared for whatever came next, or was this chaos about to claim their progress? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he stood frozen, the sound of the crash reverberating like an ominous drumroll. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. People exchanged panicked glances, unsure whether to flee or stay. Jake forced himself to break the spell of paralysis. "Stay together," he commanded, his voice rising above the murmur of fear. "Check in with your neighbors. Let us make sure everyone is okay." He sensed Emily beside him, her presence a sturdy anchor. She clutched a box of supplies, her grip fierce with determination. "Jake, let us get to the source of that noise. Maybe we can help whoever is in trouble." With a sharp nod, they moved through the crowd. The light buzz of panic buzzed in his ears, making it hard to think straight. The chaos was palpable, tinged with anxious murmurs and abrupt gasps. As they reached the area of the crash, Jake's heart sank. A large equipment panel had fallen, a solid metal slab that had disturbed a few chairs, causing them to topple. Just beyond the debris lay a young man, clutching his arm and grimacing in pain. "Stay still," Jake called out, rushing to his side. Emily knelt beside him, her calm demeanor radiating reassurance. "What happened?" she asked, her voice steady. "I was trying to set up the lights when that thing just dropped. I think I might have sprained my wrist," the young man grimaced, biting his lip. Jake examined his arm gently, feeling the heat of panic rise within him but suppressing it as if it were smoke. "We need to check if there are any other injuries, so just hang tight." She nodded, already signaling for help, her voice like a siren amid the commotion. "We'll get you sorted out. Can you move your fingers?" As the two worked together, they reinforced their bond. Jake's breath steadied as he recognized the familiar spark of teamwork igniting beneath the chaos. Encouraged, he turned back to the crowd, amplifying his voice. "If anyone else is hurt, please raise your hand. We need to help each other." At that moment, a woman from the back shouted, "My son needs help." He was near the panel. Jake's heart dropped. His muscle memory kicked in, and he gestured for Emily to follow him. They made their way toward the desperate plea, keeping their presence strong and unyielding. The sight of a boy cradling his ankle on the floor tugged at their compassion. "Can you tell us what happened?" Jake asked, kneeling beside the child, who looked about 8 eyes wide with fear mixed with tears. "I was just playing," the boy whimpered, pointing to a chair. "And then, it fell." "Okay, buddy. We're here now," Emily said, soothingly. "Just breathe. You didn't do anything wrong." They briefly assessed his injury. "We'll get you standing in a moment," Jake assured him. "I just need you to stay calm. You're doing great." As dozens more gathered nearby, Jake could see how their shared concern turned panic into purpose. He felt the atmosphere shift, fear festering away to something that felt like unity, even in the face of chaos. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed through the hall. "What happened back here?" It was the host again, his tone urgent and commanding, searching for answers. Jake stood up, preparing to explain the situation while the crowd continued to help. This was not just about managing chaos, it was about fostering collective strength. In that moment, he realized what had begun as turmoil was transforming into something far greater. Let us keep helping. He encouraged, and people began to settle into roles, comfort washing over Jake as familiarity set in. But then a chilling thought struck him. The next wave of guests would arrive soon. They weren't just helping a few. They would have to manage an entire influx of people, all with their own fears and needs. A question loomed large in his mind: could they handle it? The moment stretched, filled with a weight of expectation. Would Jake be able to keep everyone safe as the chaos surged once more? In the thickening atmosphere, something inside him flickered. Was that determination, or perhaps the fear of failure? Jake's mind raced as he scanned the room, searching for faces that seemed lost, hurt, or frightened. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on him, heavy like a storm cloud ready to burst. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders, determined to pull the crowd together. Listen up. He called out again, we need to create a plan. Emily, can you take charge of first aid? We can set up a makeshift area for anyone who needs medical attention. Emily nodded and moved swiftly, her presence infectious as she directed people to gather the supplies from the boxes she had brought. Those who can help, please join me. Let us make sure everyone who is hurt gets the care they need. Jake watched her with admiration. She radiated calm, like a lighthouse guiding ships through a storm. He felt a rush of gratitude for her partnership and the bond they had forged in the chaos. All right, he continued, rallying the crowd. The rest of you, please form small groups. Each group should check on their neighbors and get a head count of those on this floor. I need someone to reach out to security too. They need to know what is happening. Hands went up as people nodded, ready to help. Jake could see how the fear was slowly shifting into focus and resolve. It was incredible to witness that transformation, but a nagging pulse of anxiety still throbbed within him. Suddenly, there was a frantic cry from the back. Over here. Someone is trapped under the panel. Jake's stomach dropped. He turned and dashed towards the source of the voice, adrenaline fueling each step. As he neared, he could see a teenage girl pinned beneath the fallen equipment, her eyes wide and full of fear. A small crowd had gathered around her, unsure of how to help. Stay calm. I'm coming. He shouted, pushing through the onlookers. He dropped to his knees alongside a few others who were trying to lift the panel, which looked incredibly heavy and awkward. On the count of 3. Jake instructed, locking eyes with the others. 1, 2, 3. They heaved together, the sound of metal scraping against the floor echoing like a battle cry. With a grunting effort, the panel budged, and the girl wriggled free. She was shaking, tears spilling down her cheeks. Thank you, thank you. She gasped, her voice tremulous but grateful. Jake felt a swell of relief. You're okay now. Just breathe, he assured her softly, then quickly glanced around to the others. Get her some water. Before he could gather his thoughts, a familiar face appeared beside him. Emily, her brow furrowed in concern. How is she doing? She is scared, but she is fine. Just a little shaken. His heart soared at how quickly they had responded together. But then another thought crept in. The noise from the entrance caught his attention. The next wave of guests had arrived. Everyone, positions. Jake commanded, his tone steady but urgent. We need to line up chairs and direct folks to safety. Everyone else, keep tending to those who are hurt. As the crowd dispersed, Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle back onto his shoulders. Each new guest that entered was a potential for panic or chaos, and he braced himself for what was to come. The hall filled quickly as laughter and chatter grew louder. But within that typical party atmosphere clamoring outside the walls, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything could spiral out of control at a moment's notice. Jake wiped the sweat from his brow, scanning the scene. Would they really be able to maintain this fragile order as the possibilities multiplied? And then, the stark realization punched him, they weren't just managing injuries anymore, they were managing fear itself. A tension stretched between hope and dread. Could they truly turn this moment into a story of unity, or would the next wave of guests bring with them the very chaos they were working so hard to contain? Just then, a little boy tugged on Jake's shirt, his worried face buried in the folds of fabric. "Are we safe now? Will it happen again?" The boy's innocent question twisted something deep inside Jake. He opened his mouth to reassure him but faltered. Would his words even matter? As Jake looked into the young boy's frightened eyes, he knew one thing: he had to find the strength to keep them all safe, even if it meant facing the darkness that awaited them. What would happen if he failed? Jake knelt down, still feeling the tug of the boy's grip on his shirt. "We're doing everything we can to keep you safe," he finally replied, his voice steadier than he felt. The boy looked up, searching for certainty in Jake's eyes. In that moment, Jake realized he wasn't just a buffer against chaos, he was a beacon of hope. Around him, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. People were milling about, some trying to calm others, while a few still handled the wounded. The sound of laughter from the recent arrivals felt jarring against the backdrop of anxiety. Jake noticed one woman in particular, just stepping through the doorway, dressed exquisitely, oblivious to the unease swirling inside. There was an aura around her that suggested she thought it was just another social event. "Hey!" Jake called out in an attempt to redirect her before she strolled deeper into the crowded hall. "This area is under a lot of pressure right now. Can you please step back?" Her startled eyes met his, and for a brief flash, he saw uncertainty swim in their depths. She nodded slowly, moving to the side. Jake appreciated her willingness to listen but didn't miss the hint of annoyance etched across her face. People often didn't recognize a crisis until it was too late. As he turned away, he noticed another young woman in the corner, trying to console a group of children. This was no ordinary gathering of friends, it was a melting pot of emotions, fear, confusion, and a flicker of hope. He felt that they needed someone to motivate them, to lift spirits. "Everyone!" Jake's voice rang out again, more forceful this time. "We can't lose our heads. Find something to occupy yourselves. How about a story? Something cheerful?" A few hesitant smiles appeared, and someone from the crowd chimed in, "I can tell a joke." "Perfect." Jake encouraged, his heart lightening a bit. "Come on, we could use some levity. Let us gather around." As laughter erupted from the group, Jake took a moment and stepped back, feeling the collective energy shift. He took a deep breath, glancing around to gather his thoughts and regain his focus. But then the atmosphere shifted again. A nearby crash shattered the laughter momentarily, and Jake's heart raced. "What now?" he muttered, scanning the room again. The door swung open again with startling force. In rushed a couple of officials clad in uniforms, their serious demeanor overtaking the cheerful atmosphere instantly. "We need to establish control here," one of them barked. "Anyone injured, gather to the front. And the rest of you need to stay where you are." Jake's gut dropped. The crowd's fear surged again, faces turning to expressions of panic. "Listen up!" he shouted, attempting to regain the control they had begun to establish. "We need calm. They're here to help." But the panic was palpable. He could see how some of the guests instinctively moved to flee. He caught Emily's worried glance, and it only fueled his urgency. "Stay together," he called out, moving swiftly to block the exit. "Everyone needs to stay in place for a moment. You're safer here with us." In that moment, he felt like he was standing against a wave, ready to be swept away. Yet he couldn't falter, not now. The little boy still peered up at him, eyes wide and tears brimming. Jake crouched down, looking directly into those innocent blue eyes. "I promise," he said, forcing a steady voice. "We're all going to be okay. Let us show them what we're made of." As he rallied the crowd around him, he suddenly understood, this wasn't just about managing the immediate chaos, it was about building trust. They were all in this together, connected despite the fear that threatened to tear them apart. But with new voices of authority encroaching, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that their unity would be tested like never before. What challenges would they face once the officials took control? And could they continue to protect each other in the face of rising hostility? The tension in the hall hung thick as people shifted uneasily, caught between fright and uncertainty. Jake remained crouched, heart thumping beneath his shirt, and felt his resolve solidifying with each frightened face he met. Emily stood tall beside him, eyes fierce and steady, projecting calm and courage as she subtly encouraged others to rally. "Okay, everyone," Jake said, his voice firm yet soothing. "We need to remain united. Like I said earlier, we're better together. Let us focus on what we can control." He felt a palpable shift as heads nodded and fear turned to cautious solidarity. People were willing to look beyond themselves, willing to stay close just like they'd all done moments before when chaos threatened to swallow them whole. The officials continued to call for order. "We need a reliable head count and to identify any injuries as quickly as possible," one of them insisted. "Hold on. We can help you with that," Jake shouted. "Right this way, folks. Those who need assistance, please come forward." To his relief, the crowd began to break into smaller groups, directed by mutual concern. Families gravitated toward one another, friends gathering to support one another. Jake felt awe wash over him. As whispered agreements exchanged under the roller coaster of emotions, hope simmered just beneath the surface. Emily turned to Jake, voice earnest and low. "You're doing great, so strong right now." "Thanks," he responded, swallowing hard. "But the weight of it's heavy." Just then, a little girl broke free from her parents, darting toward Jake. She looked up, fear still lurking behind her big brown eyes. "Are you a hero?" she asked, searching for safety in his presence. Jake knelt down and chuckled, "I'm just a guy trying to make things better. We're all heroes today." A collective laugh rippled through the crowd, nerves softening under the weight of their shared experience. The officials stepped closer, assessing the scene. "We'd like to take over from here," one of them stated, eyeing Jake. "This situation needs immediate management." But before Jake could respond, he glanced over towards Emily, who caught his eye with an understanding gaze. The people around weren't just crowding in fear, they were banding together like a tightly woven fabric, and now they had momentum. "Listen." Jake pointed to the volunteers. "We're still going to need everyone's input. Your stories matter, they help us all. Let us talk through what happened before the officials take over." As people shared their experiences, the vibe in the hall started to morph. Each tale was a fiber, weaving them closer together, bridging the gap between fear and familiarity. When the chaos finally calmed, Jake felt a light touch on his shoulder. He turned to see Emily. "You took charge back there." Her smile was warm, full of admiration. "You rallied them. Honestly, I didn't feel so strong on my own." He paused to collect his breath. "It was their strength that held me up." With the officials now coordinating their presence and assessing needs, Jake and Emily stepped aside, watching from a distance as others brought water to the weary and reassured those still shaken. The air crackled with camaraderie, the anxiety of moments before slowly replaced by a newfound sense of belonging. Suddenly, a familiar face stumbled into view. It was the young girl they had rescued earlier, her eyes bright and brave. She approached them. "Can I help?" she asked, her voice steady. "I want to be part of the team." Jake smiled, gratitude blooming in his heart. "Absolutely. We could use your help. How about gathering people to collect their stories? You can share how the community is strong together." With a gleeful nod, she hurried off, weaving her way through the crowd. Emily turned to Jake, her expression a mix of pride and hope. "This is more than just a charity event for them, it's a real awakening, isn't it?" Jake nodded. "Yeah. All of this, it's more than what I imagined." As they exchanged a moment of reassurance, the doubts that had plagued Jake began to melt away. They had tackled the chaos as a team, rising against the overwhelming odds thrown at them. A deep transformation was unfurling before them, not only for Jake or Emily but for everyone in the hall. Then the atmosphere shifted. A wave of anticipation rippled through as the main doors swung open again, revealing families and friends, eager to step in, blissfully unaware of what had just transpired. Jake exchanged apprehensive glances with Emily. This was another challenge, another chance to shine together. But with laughter ringing and voices mingling, Jake felt stronger than ever. He wouldn't just survive this moment, he would thrive. Together. Let us greet them, Jake said, drawing strength from their unity. Together? Emily asked, eyes glimmering. Always. As they stepped forward, hand in hand, Jake finally felt the internal weight lifting. They were no longer alone. He wasn't just a mechanic in a small town. He was part of a community, woven with love, courage, and compassion. And as they readied to greet the incoming crowd, Jake knew, without a doubt, everything had changed. Don't be left out. You need to subscribe now to catch the next amazing stories that will inspire your heart. Leave a like now to fuel the journey and help others find this incredible transformation. Comment below and share your feelings about Jake and Emily's journey. We want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring tale. Don't wait not even one more second, their support could change everything.